Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and today we got a brand new update for Legion Remix with a brand new phase, which means even more content for you to dive into, like a raid, a mega dungeon, and so many more collectibles for you to obtain. Besides brand new content for you to sink your teeth into, we did receive a bunch of new class buffs over Legion Remix recently in order to try to shift the meta away from a 5-tank meta for dungeons specifically, but to promote the ability for players to play tanks and healers and play their favorite specs during the Remix experience. As well as a bunch of new quality of life improvements have been thrown into Legion Remix that are definitely going to make the game even more playable. So for today's video, I wanted to go over everything that you could expect out of Legion Remix as of this reset, with this update hitting the NA realms as of this Tuesday, and tomorrow, Wednesday, hitting the live EU realms after. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates and guides for Legion Remix, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So as of today, the Rise of the Nightfallen, I was about to say patch, but really a phase, goes live, and with it comes with a bunch of variety of new content, such as the return to Karazhan Mega Dungeon, which is one of the more memorable Mega Dungeon experiences. They definitely did a lot of cool stuff with it. The first part of the dungeon very similarly seems like the original classic version, but then the second half really does its own thing, which is super enjoyable to play through. And I'm assuming the Mythic Plus version of this dungeon is also going to be made available day one. This isn't something we got to test out over on the PTR at any point, so I'm kind of guessing, but I highly doubt they'll be holding out keystones on us for that place specifically. The Nighthold raid is also available on all 4 difficulties: LFR, Normal, Heroic, and Mythic, as well as the Suramar campaign and Suramar quests with the Nightfallen Rebellion storyline that you'll finally be able to complete, that eventually takes you to the Nighthold raid and allows us to take on Elisand as well as Gul'dan atop of the Nightwell. And of course, new content is all good and exciting, but what a lot of players really care about in Legion Remix is what are some of the collectibles you'll be able to get? Because with the new phase, we actually get access to more mounts and more items for us to spend our bronze on with this update. The release of the Rise of the Nightfallen, all those items locked behind that update are now going to be made available from some of the different colorations of the Headless Horseman mount, with a couple of variations as well as the original. We got a brand new Arcberry Mana Saber mount, as well as the Living Core, as well as the Hellfire Core, some of the more rarer mounts available from this update. With its phase unlocking, we also will get access to a handful of achievements that will continue to help us advance on infinite knowledge, which means farming infinite power for all of your weapons is going to be that much easier once you've unlocked additional knowledge. But besides that, we also got some new class changes and artifact weapon changes that you should be aware of as of this Tuesday reset, as they are looking to do some adjustments to the balancing of Legion Remix. For the most part, they're still trying to keep things super wacky and are trying to keep classes as powerful as possible, so no massive nerfs are really to be expected. But they did notice that, you know, the tank meta in Mythic Plus dungeons, I mean, if you have a tank spec for your class, you're literally playing Legion Remix on easy mode. Just pop into the tank spec, let your artifact weapon do majority of your damage, and you'll survive every single mechanic and every single ability that hits you. And tanks right now are the best class for farming content and are essentially the strongest classes, both in durability, but also in the raw damage that they can put out. As DPS classes technically can do a lot of damage, you just don't survive long enough. So they're trying to do a bit of an adjustment to promote less of this like all tank meta, to try to give an opportunity for healers and DPS classes to at least do better in endgame content. So for all the DPS and healer playstyles, they are increasing your damage and healing by 20% from all artifact traits. So this is going to be where a lot of your power comes from, and they're basically making like DPS traits for DPS classes even stronger. So tanks will still be able to use quite a lot of their power, but DPS will just have a 20% boost on top of it. And for healers, being able to use some of those healing abilities and survivability abilities, maybe like if you're running Vindicator's Judgment, which has a bit of healing and damage component, that will also have a more healing output. So potentially this could make healers and DPS a little bit better in terms of survivability and overall performance within Mythic Plus. It's still hard to tell because survivability issues may still be a core factor here that they're not necessarily addressing, so you may not be looking at a immediate breakup of the tank meta, but this at least is a step forward to try to make TPS and healers a little bit better when it comes to overall endgame. Outside of this, they also are doing some tuning for some of the artifact weapons, starting with the Call of the Legion from the Twisted Crusade ability. Call of the Legion Infernal Flares melee damage, one of the demons you can summon. They're reducing the damage of that melee enemy by a little, or melee demon by a little, but they're making their leap damage be increased, and they're also buffing the Soul Stealer's damage a bit. So they're trying to do a bit of balancing for demons more than anything. I don't think it's enough to nerf the whole like Fel trio altogether. It's just an adjustment for some of the demons that you get to summon. But for every other, I guess, pathway in your artifact weapon, they did end up buffing them in one way or another, all except for the Tempest playstyle. The actual Naravan's disc has been buffed up greatly. Every time you catch the disc, you will now add 50% additional damage to each subsequent throw of the disc instead of 30%. And this is going to be a huge damage spike for some classes. There's still a little bit of playability with Naravan's disc where you gotta catch it and aim it in the right direction, which is partially why like Twisted Crusade is just really good. You summon a demon, let him do a bunch of damage every second, but Naravan's disc potentially could be made a little bit better with this change for some playstyles. In the Holy side, they buffed up two traits. Vindicated or Light's Vengeance, first of all, buffed the damage by 50% and buffed the healing by 20%. And they did the same thing with Vindicator's Judgment, buffing the damage by 50% and healing by 20%. Vindicator's Judgment also makes you Light Force, so it actually amplifies your Light's Vengeance ability on top of it, doubling its effectiveness. So there's some nice synergy if you are trying to heavily go into the Holy Tree in general. And over in the Nature Tree with the Call of the Forest, they actually buffed up the defensive trait High Mountain Fortitude, where the percentage damage that is converted into Fortitude now has been increased to 10% at rank 1. And 15% at rank 3. But after rank 3, each additional percent, like at plus rank 4, rank 5, and rank 6, only adds like 3%. So it's a little bit more front-loaded. So if you put points into High Mountain Fortitude, you're able to get yourself a fairly sizable shield early on. So this may be better for some classes, like if you want to play DPS, looking for some support-based abilities, as Call of the Force is very good for support stuff. But you're looking to pick up a little bit of defense on top of it with High Mountain Fortitude, which can now be made a little bit better. So that could potentially be an avenue for some of the DPS classes on that survivability side, where they still want to be effective within Mythic Plus, potentially. And outside of this, Legion Remix did also add a number of little quality of life improvement features, such as Keystone Hero achievements are now back, and you'll be able to now complete dungeons in order to receive their portals. For a little bit of time, players were able to do so, but then Blizzard disabled it without really giving us a blue post, but it looks like they were initially against giving players the ability to earn portals from Legion Remix, but it seems like they went back on it. So if you are completing Keystones at a high enough level, you'll start to accumulate portals for all of these different areas from the Legion expansion. So it gives you even more portals to add to your collection. They've also added a substantial bonus experience to the very first per day random dungeon you run for both normal as well as heroic, which is a very nice bonus when it comes to EXP. I think this bonus is primarily there for anybody that's looking to level multiple alt characters, or potentially for players that don't have like hours to grind within Legion Remix, but still want to be able to, get a bunch of alts ready ahead of midnight. So this is going to give them a fairly sizable boost to the daily XP that they can get, even if you can log in for only a handful of hours in a day to get a couple of characters leveled. The armor in Remix no longer loses durability. That is something players started to run into, especially when you were doing like some of the higher tier M+ dungeons. And since gold isn't really a currency that's awarded regularly in Legion, there was a possibility that you could potentially just run out of gold, since nothing really costs gold except repairing your gear. So they're removing the repair costs entirely. And also they did a bunch of fixes for many of the different quests, as well as bug fixes for various storyline campaign quests. So if you're for some reason stuck on a certain class quest, like the Paladin, the Warrior, or the Demon Hunter in particular, if there was some story quest for your order hall that you were stuck with, go back to the order hall and try it again, because now the quest should hopefully be functional and run a little bit smoother overall. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching and hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord community if you want to keep up with all new content regarding Legion Remix or potentially Midnight Alpha. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.